Insider drops a bombshell New York Met trade report. It's Buster Olney, who's a pretty funny name for Met fans, but he reports that the San Diego Padres might be moving on from starting pitcher Dylan Cease, and the Mets are rumored to go out and get him. It gets another arm because as Met fans, we can never have enough of those, but fans are skeptical because of the player in Cease, but also because of another surprising detail that Olney mentions in his tweet. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. All the details only here on Mets Digest. I'm your host today, Mike Duda. I'll take you through everything Dylan Cease and these trade rumors, but first, we got to talk subscribers, and that being that 68.9% of you that watch these videos aren't a subscriber. So please do me a favor, just a favor here at Mets Digest, and hit that free subscribe button. That way we can bring content to you about the amazing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into it. And we're going to start off with the tweet itself because there's a very surprising detail. Now, first of all, go ahead and check out my video from way back when if you want to hear a little bit more of the details as to why Met fans don't really like Buster Olney. But very simply, on Sunday Night Baseball, he basically outed the New York Mets when they were playing the Los Angeles Dodgers and said, hey, it's a sold-out crowd here at Citi Field. They're all coming to see the Dodgers. Not, of course, the New York Mets, and not because we have a super loyal fan base. No, Olney says it's because of the Dodgers. And that's just national news. They all love the Dodgers. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this tweet. Olney says, quote, a surprise name has emerged in the starting pitcher market. Dylan Cease, who will be eligible for free agency at the end of the year. Perception of other teams is that the Padres are intent on making a push for the playoffs. That makes sense, and would use Cease to help fill other roster needs. Mets, AL East teams, because everyone in that division is in it, and the Cubs are amongst the teams that have talked about him in terms of trades. Now, I think that is very, very interesting, and we're going to turn to Sports Illustrated. We're going to turn to the experts to understand why this is so interesting and why the Padres would want to trade someone, a piece on their big league roster, to go and get different big league roster talent and not be sellers, yet sell one of their pieces. We're going to turn to John Sparacco of Sports Illustrated, who says, quote, a surprise trade candidate has emerged just 8 days before the deadline, and it appears the New York Mets have him on their radar. According to ESPN's Buster Olney, the San Diego Padres are open to trade offers for right-handed starter Dylan Cease, who will be a free agent at the season's end. The Mets are among the teams he mentioned as having discussed him. Now, this was also mentioned on another Sports Illustrated article by Ryan Phillips, who goes on to say, the Mets have a really good rotation, led by Kodai Senga, spelt wrong of course, and David Peterson with Sean Manaea healthy again to back them up. But they also have a ticking time bomb on their hands. Converted reliever Clay Holmes has already thrown 108 and 2/3 innings, which is 38 and 2/3 more than his previous career high of 70 flat. He has been really good this season, posting an 8-5 record with a 3.48 ERA and 1.27 WHIP. But so far in July, he has an ERA of 5.66 and has surrendered 13 earned runs on 21 hits in less innings, 20 and 2/3. He could be hitting a wall. If Holmes continues to struggle, New York needs to find another option for the stretch run. Frankie Montas is back, but he has a 4.62 ERA of his own and a 1.30 WHIP this season through 5 starts. His last 2 starts have been better, but he's risky. Adding another starter feels like a must for the New York Mets. Now, this is what Ryan Phillips of Sports Illustrated is saying, but an insider in Andy Martino confirms that Clay Holmes, he's just fine in his current role as a starting rotation player. He says, quote, Clay Holmes has topped his previous career high in innings, pitching 108 and 2/3 already this season. The Mets are looking for relievers at the trade deadline. The question almost asks itself, might the team just ask Holmes to return to the bullpen, the role in which he made 2 all-star teams with the New York Yankees? Here's the answer. The Mets do not feel that a return to the bullpen for Holmes is necessary for him to remain healthy and productive. Holmes is not only pitching effectively, but recovering well, sources say. Now, so far this season, I agree with that as an outsider looking in. There's only been one time in which Holmes' name has gone in the news in terms of he wasn't recovering well, and he still went out and pitched 75 pitches the next game. Having said that, it is not out of the question that the Mets could ultimately consider asking Holmes to serve as a reliever again down the stretch and adding to their rotation at the trade deadline. But such a move is not necessary to preserve Holmes' health, nor is it plan A. So it seems as if Holmes is going to be fine in this rotation, and the New York Mets have a very solid pitching rotation right now, so why would they go out and get Cease? Well, we're going to turn back to Sparacco, who's going to confirm an odd request in return. Let's turn to the latter part of that Buster Olney tweet. Sparacco says, quote, the Padres, 55-47 this year, entered Wednesday sitting third in the National League wildcard spot. They reportedly remain focused on making a push for the playoffs, but would consider using Cease to help address other roster needs. So the question now becomes, we're going to remain with Sparacco for the rest of this video here, what do they actually need? Well, he answers that question. He says, quote, currently, left field and catcher are San Diego's biggest needs. Now, they have arguably the worst catching staff in all of baseball. That has been reported a couple of times. It's in multiple outlets that they do have statistically the worst catching staff in ball, so they definitely could use a catcher. Anyway, both of the Mets' major league corner outfield spots are tied to players on long-term deals, Juan Soto and Brandon Nimmo. But they do have a near major league ready prospect, Drew Gilbert, number 9 in the system, waiting in AAA. Now, what about behind the plate? Because that's obviously important. Well, he goes on to say, quote, New York's catching situation has been complicated this year due to an up and down performance from Francisco Alvarez and Luis Stearns. The 23-year-old Alvarez spent nearly a month in AAA working through mechanical adjustments before being recalled on Monday, sending defensive specialist Kodai Senga back down. It is plausible to think San Diego would ask for one of the Mets' depth backstops in a package, though it is unclear if New York would be comfortable parting with one. Looking ahead to next year, the Padres could use another right side infielder or additional designated hitter option with Luis Arias hitting free agency, and the Mets have plenty to offer there. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the prospects and the big leaguers that San Diego could be asking for and that the Mets might want to give up. We're going to start with all of the top 30 prospects for the New York Mets. Williams, he's not moving. Stearns has said it before. He wants to hold on to him. Same with Tong, McLean, Benj, Sproat. None of these guys are going, and pitchers are not needed, so any pitcher that's on this list is automatically out for this specific video. Jacob Reimer, he is a left side of the infield guy, third baseman who can also play the outfielder. The outfield, I guess maybe he could get moved. Ryan Clifford is mainly a first baseman. He probably won't be touched. Jesus Baez, not, of course, a corner outfielder, a left fielder, or a catcher. AJ Ewing, outfielder, doesn't play the corners, though. Second base. Blade Tidwell is also a pitcher. Moving on. Ilian Pena, shortstop. Nope. Drew Gilbert is an outfielder. Drew Gilbert, like we heard in the quote, he could be moved. I guess right now he is the only guy that I've seen so far that can be moved. Then you got pitcher, Nick Morabito, who I haven't even heard of, to be completely honest, the 15th prospect in our system. He is also an outfielder, so I could see the Mets moving him. Pitcher. Devarian Gutierrez. The Mets had a top catcher for a while who is now no longer in their top prospect list, which I find interesting. So I guess Gutierrez can be moved, theoretically. Then you also have Chris Suero, who can also play catcher, so I guess he could be moved. Eli Serrano III, outfielder, could be moved. Pitcher, infielder. Edward Lantuiga, number 28th prospect who could probably be moved. Don Hamels, a pitcher, and Ronald Hernandez, a catcher. So, going to the more important side of the prospects, it looks like nobody in the top 10 would be a good fit. Maybe Ryan Clifford, but I still doubt it personally. So let's turn to the Major League roster. Here are the outfielders that the New York Mets have. Starling Marte is the only one who will not become a free agent at the end of this year, but the Padres are not going to trade a piece that they think is going to be a wash or a waste in Dylan Cease to go out and get a guy that's making nearly $21 million this year. They're not going to take on that contract. Marte is obviously not going to leave. Nimmo locked up all the way through 2031. Juan Soto locked up until 2040 with the largest contract in sports history. No way he's getting traded. And Tyrone Taylor is not a UFA, a free agent, until 2027, so he also likely won't be moved. Moving over to the catcher side of things, Luis Stearns, not a UFA until 2027, and Francisco Alvarez, also not a free agent until 2029. So I don't really understand where the Mets would be trading someone. And again, if we go into it, I think if anything, they're going to end up trading a prospect. But do not go ahead and trade Ryan Clifford. That makes 0 sense. No sense whatsoever to trade Clifford. Do not do that, David Stearns. Please and thank you. And the reason why is look who you're getting in return. You're getting Dylan Cease, who has been an all-star before, or hasn't, I should say. He's been close to an all-star. He's finished in the top 5 in Cy Young twice. He's had good years. He was very good with the White Sox, but he just hasn't been good this year. Granted, he's been solid in his last 2 starts. He pitched yesterday on the 23rd in Miami. 5 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, only 2 of them earned, a home run allowed, 3 walks, 5 Ks. And then his start before that on the 18th in Washington was also really solid. 5 1/3, 4 hits, no earned runs, 10 Ks. Funny enough, it was the first start back at Nationals Park for him since throwing a no-hitter on the 25th of July last season in 2024. But the stats just don't add up for Dylan Cease. March ERA, 6.23, not much better in April at a 5.68. May, he was solid at a 3.71, but that's still not super great. That's nobody I would give a top 10 prospect to go out and get. Why would I give up Ryan Clifford for a guy whose best ERA in a month is 3.71 in the month of May, 4.23 in June, and 4.84 here in the month of July? The only reason why some fans aren't excited to possibly go out and get Cease is because when you look at his advanced metrics, he's pretty solid. He does walk a lot of guys, but that strikeout rate is high. He gets a lot of chases, gets a lot of whiffs. He throws hard, and the expected ERA and the expected batting average against, they're better. They're a lot better than his current statistics, meaning he's an unlucky player technically when you look at the advanced statistics. But as much as I love it to help out who a player is, I more like to use these metrics to see how is a guy performing, or how is this prospect that just got called up doing. Not really, hey, should we go trade for this guy because he's got potential? I would shy away from that when you're a contender like the New York Mets are. So overall, I personally do not want Dylan Cease, but do you want Dylan Cease? Well, let me know in the comment section down below. Unfortunately, that's all the time I have for you in today's video. Again, let me know your thoughts about Cease and the Mets going out and acquiring him, or maybe trading a guy like Ryan Clifford, who I think would be the best fit in terms of the Padres, or the best ask from the San Diego Padres. I personally want no part in that. I don't mind Cease overall. That's the overarching theme here. I'm fine with the Mets getting him. They should not even be giving up a top 30 prospect to go out and get him, which I know the Padres are not going to be willing to do, and therefore, overall, I'm probably out on a Dylan Cease deal. But let me know, do you have a differing opinion? Drop your comments down below. Unfortunately, that's all the time I have for you in today's video. Thank you so much as always for watching, and let's go Mets.